Hey guys, it's Scott from fxmissions.com. Just a note, I've finished the trilogy of Anthologies from the Forefront, and all 3 books are currently available on Amazon.
Take your leadership to the next level. It's time for the Foundational Missions Leadership Moment with Scott McClelland of FX Missions.
Hi, it's Scott McClelland with your Leadership Moment. Thanks for joining us. We're in the middle of a series right now on overcoming obstacles on the path to influence. Thanks for sitting in with us. There are going to be a few more episodes, if you will, in this series, and I hope they're being an encouragement to you. Please give any kind of feedback you'd like to my email address, scott@fxmissions.com. The problem here, as I have observed it, is that few leaders, or few of those who are called to leadership, are successful in navigating the obstacles on the path to realizing their calling in full. This is a challenge. It's something I think those of us who are trying to encourage young leaders toward maturity need to take very seriously and not just assume that just because someone has a calling that they'll make it to their destination. We've talked about injuries, insecurities, communication, misunderstanding, expectations so far, as well as the mentoring relationship in this series. Today I want to talk to you about jealousy. Jealousy, as you know, is a destroyer of relationship or potential relationships. As people who are called into leadership and influence, we have to realize that there's nothing that we're going to do that is going to be done alone if it's to be something significant. And jealousy is something that we need to stand against and overcome. The example that comes to mind here when I'm thinking of jealousy is the relationship between Saul and David. Now, this is the ultra-classic, the quintessential example of the struggle, but there are versions of this same struggle that are playing out all around you and me all the time. Saul, a man whose leadership was on shaky ground, was feeling threatened and became jealous and territorial when David came on the scene and began to demonstrate something of his calling in God. Does this sound familiar to you? Maybe it's happened to you. Maybe this is something very similar to something that's happened in your life. If so, I'd like to ask, how are you looking at it? Why is it that most of us, especially those of us who are emerging leaders, see ourselves immediately as the David of the scenario? Yeah, Saul got after me one time. You get my point. But we tend to make ourselves the example of the redemptive side, and not the side that is struggling with jealousy. But if we live long enough, we may experience both sides of this testing at the individual level, and understanding will help us to avoid that trap. As leaders, we need to put our leadership, reputation, legacy in God's hands and not try to establish ourselves. This was something that Saul didn't do. He was trying to maintain and defend himself, and he actually obviously resisted God, and the mantle of leadership was taken from him by God, though the position continued to his death. As those of us who are being raised up, we need to walk in humility toward those who are already established and be very careful to let love be our constant motivation in our interactions with them and in our interactions with all people, and especially those who are worthy of honor. David gave us a great example of this. Jealousy is a destroyer and needs to be avoided. Let's make sure that we pull the threads of jealousy from our heart, humble ourselves, and give respect both to those who are being raised up and to those who are our examples of positions and roles of responsibility. I'm Scott McClelland. Thanks for joining us for this leadership moment. If you'd like to contact me or us, please do so at fxmissions.com. Until next time, have a good one.
This leadership moment was produced in partnership with Engaging Missions. Have your leadership question answered by contacting Scott at fxmissions.com. Visit FX Missions to learn more about how you can grow your leadership and engage in missions. Visit engagingmissions.com for encouragement, insight, and resources from missionaries, ministry leaders, and church planters.